Restricting access for Toronto fans trying to watch the Leafs in Florida.
We've still got tons of friends, up in the Toronto area, so if they want to come down, we're more than happy to help them out.
How some are deking around the Panthers trying to limit home games in the Sunshine State to American residents. We'll explain how long the rule will block fans from Toronto.
And that's what shows the human strength of perseverance, so, you know what I mean? We shall persevere and we shall get through it.
Plus, businesses in the downtown putting on a brave face as an important part of Queen Street shuts down for years.
With the Northern Iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty.
And remembering a Canadian music icon, Gordon Lightfoot hit his stride in Toronto's Yorkville music scene. How the Orillia-born singer's incredible legacy is being remembered on the night of his passing. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs are still flying high after this weekend's Round 1 playoff victory, but moving on to Round 2 against the Florida Panthers has already led to a stumbling block. The Panthers putting in a rule to limit who can buy their tickets for the first 24 hours anyway. It is not unheard of, and it's not for very long, but long enough to drive some in Leafs Nation up the wall. Dale Manukduk joins us live from Maple Leaf Square tonight. And Dale, that is a place where anybody who can't get into a game can still have a great time on game night, both home and away.
Well, that's right, Chris, and it's about to get even better as the Leafs are expanding the tailgate so more of Leafs Nation can come catch the excitement at home or away games, as you mentioned, here in Maple Leaf Square. You can already see that there's fencing put up. They have the barricades ready to put into place. Now, this extension is going to run along Bremer Boulevard from York Street to Lower Simcoe, almost tripling the capacity. Now, that takes care of the free viewing outdoors. What about for those who want to go inside Scotiabank Arena? That's a different story, as tickets cost anywhere from $600 to roughly $3,000. So maybe, Chris, you're thinking about heading down south. Well, even that you're going to have to think twice about. Maybe you're thinking about heading to the Sunshine State for Leafs at Panthers.
It's cheaper for us to go to Florida, fly down there, stay at an Airbnb and get tickets than it is to go to a game here.
Well, hold up. While that is true if you package certain tickets with certain flights and accommodations, it's not that easy. Ticketmaster announced sales to this event will be restricted to residents of the United States, adding residency will be based on credit card billing address.
I think it's stupid, to be honest. If you buy it from someone else, they'll just transfer it over to you, can make it in.
The Panthers would only say we are giving our local fans first access to tickets to the series for the next 24 hours, but anyone can purchase tickets on the secondary markets. Even on Ticketmaster, verified resale tickets are roughly double the standard ticket prices, of which there were many still available tonight. Liam and Wendy Mucklow live 3 states over in Louisiana and scooped a pair for Game 3.
I'm a diehard Leafs fan. My family's watched the Leafs since I was born and before, so I cannot wait for the next round.
Their family recently moved from Canada and are willing to help those back home work around the problem.
I know how much Leafs fans are just rabid. It's been 19 years since they made it out of the first round. We've still got tons of friends, up in the Toronto area. So if they want to come down, we're more than happy to help them out.
It's pretty lame. It's really lame. And, it's not the hotbed of hockey down there.
Richard Petty is the former CEO of MLSE. He says the restrictions won't stop Leafs fans from heading down if they want to.
The Leafs don't look like Toronto. The Raptor fans look like Toronto. It's an older, white, more affluent crowd. Of course, they can afford to travel.
Now, Chris, I'll note that for every game that I've been to at Maple Leaf Square, it does look like Toronto. A lot of young fans of all different backgrounds, but I can understand if they can't afford to get into the game like the rest of us. Some of the tickets that I saw tonight, 11 rows up, $1,300 Canadian. The similar seats in Florida, about $575 US, so a big difference. And I just want to get back to that couple you saw in the report. Wendy, the wife, she's part of Leafs Nation. Her husband, Liam, grew up an Edmonton Oilers fan, and those teams could meet in the Stanley Cup Finals. And if that happens, the couple is ready to come back to Canada, spend big money, travel between both cities, and go to every single game. Chris.
My goodness, it all just sounds too expensive. I'd rather party where you are at, Dale. Thanks, Dale. All right, still ahead tonight. Tomorrow marks 56 years since the last time the Leafs hoisted the Stanley Cup. We'll catch up with some folks who remember that series a little later in the show. Stick around for that. Turning, though, now to some developing news at Warden Subway Station, and that is where police say a 16-year-old boy suffered catastrophic injuries after he attempted to climb on top of a moving subway car and struck his head. Here's more from police.
All of the information that we've been able to collect at this point indicates that there was undetermined motivation for why the young person was attempting to climb onto the outside of the car. There was no altercation. He was not trying to escape a crime. So that is going to be the substance to the ongoing investigation.
The teen was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries, but has since been upgraded to stable condition. Police are appealing for anyone who witnessed the incident to contact them. Several police officers and transit staff were on shift today along Queen Street, helping people navigate the first day of the nearly 5-year shutdown of the vital street. The closure right in the downtown from Bay to Victoria is to make way for the construction of the Ontario Line subway. Let's get to Ali Chiasson for how people are feeling now that the anxiously awaited shutdown has finally begun.
It's happening, the big Queen Street closure downtown for at least 4.5 years, forcing people to change their route to work and appointments.
We have a lot of clients that are showing up late because they're all saying about traffic and everything like that too, with trying to get over here. Like most of our clients have to drive, so.
It sounds like it's going to be at least 4.5 years of it.
With our construction, maybe 10 years.
Fair play, considering the situation with the Eglinton Crosstown LRT and its ever-changing completion date. Metrolinx, what say you?
Yeah, we've learned a lot of lessons from other past projects, like the Eglinton Crosstown, but we're working closely with our contractor to make sure that everything is done as quickly as possible and as safely as possible.
This is a full closure, not just work on weekends. The approach is to shut it down and get it done. What you see happening on the street today is light work.
This is a very dense area of the city with infrastructure both above and below the road, so we're kind of just getting this area ready for the major construction.
And the 110-year-old Elgin Theatre is bracing for the boring machine.
You know, the dome in the Elgin Theatre is original to the building. And it's our most vulnerable point. That is a concern for us, and certainly working with Metrolinx on how to make sure we're testing for vibration. And they have assured us that we shouldn't feel anything. So we're just hoping for the best.
But just in case.
I have a couple of the Ontario Line folks, their numbers in my phone.
Yeah.
On speed dial, so they know who they are.
That way you don't have to run out and be like, hey, stop drilling.
Yes, well, that's it. Throw myself in front of the driller.
For commuters, you know the drill. Find alternate routes. Take public transit to the show or your appointment downtown. While your patience is tested, your business will be appreciated.
Is there something to be said, too, for a lot of businesses that are like really just starting to ramp up again after COVID, and then now you're hit with something like this?
Of course, I mean, but everything's a challenge. We keep on getting challenged with more, and that's what shows the human strength of perseverance. So, you know what I mean? We shall persevere, and we shall get through it.
And we shall eventually get transit around here.
Of course, hopefully we can get better transit going on.
So whether you're trying to make it to the play or your hair appointment on time, you can get down here by taking existing public transit. The Queen Street subway station will be unaffected. Pedestrian traffic also unaffected, as you can see. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
The city's East End was a major focus of the day after one person was killed and 3 others were hurt in a collision in Scarborough. It happened at Brimley Road and Lawrence Avenue shortly before 11 this morning. Police say the driver of the silver car, a 19-year-old man, was traveling west on Lawrence when it struck the white car, which was traveling east. The 60-year-old driver of that car was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the other car and his 2 passengers were taken to the hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police are investigating weather conditions and speed as possible factors of the crash. And here's a live look this evening of the Toronto skyline. Another evening filled with pockets of rain, of course, as we hover around 7 degrees. Colette joins us now with a first look at the forecast. And Colette, this on-again, off-again rain is as annoying as it is long-lasting.
Yes, Chris, this is quite the stubborn pattern. And, you know, okay, it's been a few days as it is, but this is going to go on for a few more days. That area of low pressure just doesn't want to release. There's no kind of upper winds to push it along, so it's been nearly stationary. And with that, you see where kind of the core of it is, where the cooler air is. Now, behind it, temperatures are a little milder. And, okay, they're nothing to write home about, but a little milder in front of it as well. So that kind of shows us where the core is. And we need it to, you know, release and move on way off towards the east coast. That's going to take some time. So we get the rotation of some showers at times, then a dry spot, then more showers, then a dry spot, and this goes on. You get my drift. Now, as we get into Wednesday, we're going to see a transfer of this energy more off the coast, and that means by the time we're into Thursday, we're looking at just a few isolated showers that should be left, and we get out of that pattern. Tonight, 4 degrees for the low. Now, tomorrow, 7 for the high, almost 10 degrees below seasonal, but also there are a few spots, not the city, but a few spots where there'll be a little snow in the forecast. I'll tell you about that coming up.
Oh, yikes. Okay, Colette, thank you. Beginning next school year, mental health education will be required for Ontario students. It'll be rolled into phys ed for students in grade 7 and 8. Grade 10 students, meanwhile, will learn about it during their career studies class. Burlington MPP Natalie Pierre is behind the change. Her 17-year-old son, Mike, took his own life in 2017.
Mike seemed just like any other student. The day before he died, he took a university campus tour. He worked a few hours at his part-time job, and he got together with friends.
The education minister alongside her there saying the curriculum will include tools on how to manage stress, how to recognize mental health concerns, getting help, and addressing stigma. Critics of the move say it's a great step, but mental health learning should be mandatory in every grade. Now to the latest on the mayoral election campaign trail, and today candidate Anna Bailau released her plan for building more homes in Toronto.
As the city works to build 285,000 new homes in the next decade, I will set a target to guarantee that 20% of the new homes built, a minimum of 57,000 homes, are purpose-built rental.
Bailau says she would also speed up construction of nonprofit housing and streamline planning approvals.
A couple of the other candidates have said they're going to raise property taxes. Josh Matlow has said he's going to raise property taxes. Brad Bradford has said he's going to raise taxes. But we haven't heard from the others. I believe that Torontonians need to hear from the others.
Meanwhile, Anthony Peruzza there issuing a challenge today to all the other mayoral candidates. He wants them to declare whether or not they'll raise property taxes. Peruzza says he won't do it if he becomes mayor. Instead, he wants to see the city stop handing over billions of dollars collected annually from property taxes to the province.
I will drive forward on the Waterfront East LRT. Part of my comprehensive plan to boost the TTC ridership and to get Toronto moving again is to make sure that projects like the Waterfront East LRT are a priority.
And candidate Mitzi Hunter talking transit today. She plans to have transit service along the waterfront extended to the distillery area and the western Portlands. Here's a look tonight at Gordon Lightfoot's star on Canada's Walk of Fame on King Street. Lightfoot was inducted in 1998, recognized for his indelible mark on the musical landscape of this country. His longtime publicist breaking the news to CBC that the folk music icon died tonight in a Toronto hospital at the age of 84. Born in Orillia, it was right here in Toronto that Lightfoot started gaining international traction for his catchy folk melodies. He is considered to be one of the most accomplished and well-known singer-songwriters to ever come out of Canada. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson has more on his life and legacy.
Remember me, I'm the one who loved you.
By his early 20s, Gordon Lightfoot was already a mainstay on CBC's variety shows.
Let's have a real big hand for Gordy Lightfoot.
In the 1960s, as folk movement gained popularity, so did his songs.
Hear the mighty engines roll.
That song, Early Morning Rain, would also eventually be sung by Elvis Presley. just one of many American stars who admired the man who stayed in Canada even as his international fame grew.
If you could read my mind, love, what a tale my thoughts could tell.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa down.
In 1975, he wrote what he considered his finest song, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, inspired by the previous year's sinking of a Great Lakes freighter that took down the lives of 29 of its crew members.
With the Northern Iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty.
When you get the bug of songwriting, it stays with you all the time. You never quite forget about it.
At the 1986 Junos, another famous admirer, Bob Dylan, inducted him into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame.
All right, here he is now, Gordon Lightfoot.
But more than any accolades, what Lightfoot wanted was to continue recording and touring, even after the 2002 abdominal hemorrhage that almost took his life. The road to recovery was long and tough, but Lightfoot's love of the stage kept him going.
Sometimes I think it's a shame I get feeling better when I'm feeling no pain.
You know, I want to be like, like Wilf Carter and Stompin' Tom and Willie Nelson, and just do it just for as long as is humanly possible.
He actually continued performing well into his 80s, even through other health scares, and staying Canada's troubadour till the very end,
A key was kept inside a shoe.
capturing life stories, big and small, in timeless melodies. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Morning glories on my mind.
Timeless melodies indeed. Definitely a few of them playing through our minds tonight, I'm sure. Now, all right, let's get to weather now with Colette. And Colette, I know that you are tracking lots of rain this week and even some wet snow.
Yes, Chris, you know, most folks don't want to say it ain't snow. That's kind of the attitude, but that's in April. We really feel that into May. It's the last thing that you want to be seeing on my graphics here. Now, it's not for the GTA. This continues to be a rain event, even though temperatures are below seasonal, but there are a few areas where we are looking at a little bit of wet snow or wet flurries kind of mixing in here. So as we put this into motion with some of that I was showing you earlier in the show, that colder core with this system, then into the higher elevations or further north towards cottage country, yeah, the chance of getting a little bit of a dusting here pushing through. It turns over to rain. You get anywhere closer to the GTA or to the west or the north shores of Lake Erie, back towards the Windsor area, all rain. But there is that pocket, so into tomorrow morning, and then even through a good portion of the day tomorrow, there'll be that risk kind of here and there. Elsewhere, what we are seeing are just those bands of showers kind of passing through with the rotation around this area of low pressure. By the time we get into Wednesday, it's starting to finally release and move away from us. But not only that, there's still a slim chance, but won't be much left into Thursday. So just then an isolated shower expected. And then we get into even drier and sunnier conditions as we head towards Friday. In terms of the additional rainfall, I know we do have some higher water levels, especially into eastern Ontario, where some of the rainfall warnings were, and even just to be mindful of some around the GTA, of some of the rivers or streams where the levels are a bit higher. You have to use caution there. But it's an additional 5 to 10 millimeters as we go towards Wednesday morning, and really after that, anything that's left will just be a couple of millimeters at best, I would expect. Temperatures overnight tonight are low, about 4 degrees in Toronto, slightly cooler Kitchener, Sarnia, London, and even Windsor are low tonight, going down to 3 degrees. And we don't really climb too far into the day tomorrow. It's only a high of 6 for Toronto tomorrow, Wednesday 10. We won't see much in the way of these showers Thursday. Don't get too concerned here. We'll be seeing more and more sun coming out. And I think you'll like the trend as well with the temperatures, Chris.
Yeah, I definitely will. Finally tonight, the Leafs own the longest championship drought in the NHL. In fact, tomorrow will mark the 56th anniversary of the last time they hoisted the Stanley Cup. Today, our Greg Ross spoke with some fans who remember watching that moment.
Things were very different back in 1967. The games were still televised in black and white, and the Leafs were still playing at Maple Leaf Gardens. But the buzz around town was still the same.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah, they were our favorite.
A number of residents at the Rouge Valley Retirement Home in Markham reminisced with us about the Leafs' last Stanley Cup.
Toronto Maple Leafs leading in the series, 3-2.
It happened on May 2nd, 1967. The Leafs beat the Montreal Canadiens in Game 6.
I lived in Sarnia at the time. Sarnia was a great hockey town.
Robert Quinlan watched on a tiny black and white TV with his wife and kids, who were still very young at the time. He says, just like the current version of the Leafs, there were some big names leading the team back then.
Dave Keon, Ellis, Horton.
Going over the line with Ellis. Kelly shoots. Ellis shoots. He scores! Ellis!
But one name in particular stands out to him.
I think the winning goal was scored by Jim Pappen.
Pappen goes to the wing, centered it. He scores! Stankowski!
And there was a controversy about it. Was it tipped in by Stankowski? I think Pappen was awarded the goal.
I was at the game.
And Thompson was there at Maple Leaf Gardens to see Pappen score that goal.
Pappen shot it and it hit Stankowski. Well, that was an odd kind of a goal.
My father-in-law worked for the Gardens and happened to get a couple of tickets. I don't remember much more except for us shouting the way we did.
Behind the net, coming out in front, Not much has changed on that front in 56 years. Thompson was cheering for her Leafs on Saturday night as they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning to advance to the second round of the playoffs.
Fortunately, my neighbor was a bedroom away from me, but I was screaming. And I was yelling, "Go Leafs, go!"
And the residents here will be cheering again tomorrow night when the Leafs play Game 1 of their second round series. Except for Shirley Shipley, she's a little superstitious.
I tape the whole game and then I watch it the next morning because I don't want to jinx them.
And while the Leafs still have a long way to go in these playoffs, confidence here is pretty high.
Oh, they're going to win, yes.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Markham.
I'm sure we will all be cheering like Anne there, and hopefully we'll make some new memories in color this time. That is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Marvel Tarouk will be with you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and we'll be off the air at 11 because of hockey, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Have a great night, everyone.